She transformed doubt into a sense of betrayal not merely against her, but against the patients who could be saved through their so-called revolutionary technology. Another example is Simon Leviev, the infamous subject from the Netflix documentary The Tinder Swindler. While Holmes preyed on our desire for a sense of heroic purpose, Leviev weaponized our craving for exclusive belonging. He didn't merely lie about his wealth. He meticulously crafted an entire lifestyle brimming with luxury, meant to persuade his victims that they were specially chosen for an extraordinary experience. Leviev's acts of love bombing were not random romantic gestures. Leviev constituted a calculated method of belonging, manipulation complete with private jets, lavish dinners, extravagant gifts, and relentless attention. He created an intoxicating atmosphere so compelling that rational thought disappeared. His victims often described feeling a deep addiction to a lifestyle they had never encountered, coupled with an overwhelming sense that they deserved this extraordinary treatment. Both Holmes and Leviev's strategies activate dopamine and oxytocin, the brain chemicals associated with addiction. The victims' brains began to associate these psychopaths with intense feelings of purpose and emotional connection, fostering a psychological dependency that is exceedingly challenging to eliminate. However, once they secured this dependency, both Holmes and Leviev tactically withdrew. Holmes's employees found themselves working longer hours with diminishing recognition, continually being told they weren't committed enough to the mission. Leviev's victims discovered that his attention shifted towards urgent business matters that conveniently required their financial contributions to sustain the luxurious lifestyle they had come to enjoy. This strategic withdrawal is not abandonment. Rather, it sets the stage for exploitation. Individuals who have become emotionally dependent on those initial feelings of validation are all too willing to overlook clear red flags and DDIs and compromise their boundaries in a desperate effort to regain that sense of importance. This oscillation between overwhelming validation and tactical withdrawal leads to what specialists term trauma bonding, which creates a psychological attachment that remains even when the relationship begins to show detrimental signs. While high-profile cases like those of Holmes and Leviev are crucial to understanding the nature of psychopathy, let's be realistic. Most individuals will not encounter such grand-scale con artists. Instead, they are far more likely to encounter psychopaths in everyday workplace situations where their techniques may be subtler yet equally corrosive. According to recent research, 36% of workplace bullying incidents stem from individuals with psychopathic traits. However, these scenarios are frequently misidentified because workplace psychopaths don't announce their presence through overt cruelty or incompetence. Instead, they thrive using what researchers refer to as subclinical manipulation, psychologically, damaging tactics that are incredibly hard to pinpoint or substantiate. Let me provide a clearer picture of how this transpires. One of the most sophisticated methods they employ is systematic relationship triangulation. A psychopathic manager may deliberately sow discord between team members while positioning themselves as the indispensable mediator. They might inform you that a colleague has criticized your work in private while telling that colleague that you are attempting to undermine them. As team harmony dissolves and paranoia begins to circulate within the group, guess who becomes essential? That same manager who claims to hold everything together? But there's even more insidious manipulation at play. These individuals are also expert manipulators of career advancement. They may offer to assist you with a significant presentation and then subtly alter your work in such a way that sabotages your performance. When you ultimately fail, they express faux sympathy to upper management while cleverly positioning themselves as the most suitable candidate for promotion. Adding to this confusion is how organizational structures often inadvertently reward such behavior. When a psychopathic manager faces high staff turnover, executives may mistakenly interpret this as a demand for high standards. When they usurp credit for their subordinates' work, it can erroneously be perceived as strong leadership. The qualities that render them toxic to individuals can make them appear highly valuable to organizations focused on immediate results. Now, let's delve into a more troubling perspective. From an evolutionary standpoint, psychopathy isn't merely a glitch in human behavior, it's a strategy. Psychopaths exemplify what researchers label a successful parasitic strategy, a behavioral response that has evolved alongside human cooperation over millennia. The rate of psychopathy, approximately 1% of the general population, is not random. It signifies an evolutionary equilibrium. If there were more psychopaths, society would develop stronger defenses against manipulation. If there were fewer, the advantages of psychopathic traits would magnify exponentially. The current frequency of psychopathy reflects a balance in nature, where these manipulative strategies remain functional without overwhelming our societal defenses. This evolutionary framework sheds light on why psychopaths can be so challenging to identify and defend against. They have not evolved apart from human cooperation, rather they have emerged in concert with it. Their tactics are expertly designed to exploit the very psychological mechanisms that underpin social cohesion. Consider religious communities. For example, they are built upon trust, forgiveness, and the expectation of good faith. By convincingly masquerading as devout individuals, psychopaths can infiltrate these networks and access systems of mutual aid while remaining unbound by the moral constraints that govern other individuals. Ultimately, understanding trust, empathy, and moral reasoning as more than mere individual traits reveals them as foundational components of functioning human societies. Psychopaths are akin to social hackers who exploit this infrastructure, deriving personal gain without contributing anything in return. Here's a paradoxical and chilling aspect of psychopathic manipulation. Efforts to detect it can actually heighten your vulnerability rather than diminish it. When you begin to question someone's motives, your natural reaction is to analyze their behavior more scrupulously. You start to pay closer attention and attempt to decipher their intentions. Yet this analytical process requires a level of engagement that is precisely what sophisticated psychopaths thrive on. Let's explore this with the example of Keith Raniere and NXIVM. Raniere specifically targeted intelligent, accomplished individuals, successful actresses, business executives, heirs to affluent families, out of belief that they were naive. But because they became easier to manipulate once engaged, providing him with valuable resources. When potential recruits expressed skepticism about his teachings, Raniere didn't become defensive or evasive. Instead, he welcomed their doubts as signs of intelligence and engaged them directly, investing hours into elaborate philosophical discussions that seemingly addressed their specific concerns while simultaneously gathering intelligence about their values, fears, and decision-making processes. The more rigorously analytical his targets became, the deeper they delved into understanding his system, often spending months scrutinizing his background and dissecting his teachings in a bid to ascertain whether he was genuine. In sum, by recognizing the psychological intricacies of manipulation, individuals can be better equipped to guard against those who exploit our vulnerabilities. The path forward lies in cultivating awareness and developing strategies that safeguard against the subtle, yet deeply consequential tactics employed by those with psychopathic traits. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to support our work and never miss an upload. Like this video, drop a comment, and share it. Imagine yourself in a high-stakes boardroom meeting with Stefan Kaufmann, the charismatic CEO of Olympus, a multinational corporation valued at $15 billion, dedicated to the development of medical technology and equipment that saves lives. He speaks eloquently, and his strategic decisions seem impeccable, creating the impression that he has everything under control. But in a stunning turn of events in October 2024, Kaufmann shocked the business world by suddenly resigning. The reason? An internal investigation uncovered that he had been purchasing illegal drugs. What's even more alarming is that no one had any inkling of his secret life. The company was flourishing under his leadership, which only adds to the horror of the situation. The shocking revelation came to light due to a completely unrelated whistleblower complaint. Take a moment to digest that. This individual, charged with leading a company responsible for life-saving technology, was simultaneously engaged in unlawful behavior, and his ability to maintain that dual existence was so effective that it went unnoticed. Kaufmann appeared completely composed in those boardrooms, negotiating deals that would impact millions of patients worldwide while concealing his double life. This scenario raises an unsettling point. Such instances are not mere flukes. Studies indicate that CEOs exhibit psychopathic traits at rates 4 times higher than the average population. To put it starkly, approximately 1 in every 25 corporate leaders manifests significant psychopathic characteristics. These are not the cliché villains you might encounter in films, but rather the highly polished individuals you admire, leaders you follow on LinkedIn, and successful personalities you secretly aspire to emulate. Today, I aim to reveal how the moral compass you likely pride yourself on as your greatest strength might actually be your most considerable vulnerability. We'll delve into why being intelligent could make you more susceptible to manipulation rather than less. And I will explain the disconcerting evolutionary principles that account for why psychopaths don't merely survive in our contemporary world. They dominate it. By the conclusion of this discussion, you will grasp not only why the most perilous individuals in your life may be the ones you would never suspect, but also what proactive measures you can take to safeguard yourself. Before we explore their manipulative tactics more closely, it's essential to first understand the underlying psychology at play. Neuroscientific research has revealed some fascinating and terrifying insights when examining the brains of psychopaths using imaging technology. One key discovery revolves around mirror neurons, the brain cells that activate both when you perform an action and when you observe another performing the same action. These neurons can be considered as the basis of empathic responses, allowing you to feel the emotions of others. For instance, when witnessing someone's pain, you may feel a sense of distress. However, in psychopaths, the functioning of these neurons is entirely different. They possess the peculiar ability to turn their empathy on and off as easily as flipping a light switch. Consider the implications of this for a moment. While you traverse through life absorbing the emotions of those around you, feeling guilt upon harming someone, and experiencing anxiety when others are distressed, psychopaths can simply deactivate their emotional responses. This phenomenon leads to what researchers describe as a combination of high cognitive empathy and low affective empathy. In simpler terms, they can read others' thoughts and feelings with surprising clarity, often better than those individuals can themselves, but they do not genuinely share those emotions. They operate as emotional vampires, armed with a sort of night vision that allows them to navigate social situations with startling precision. Furthermore, a notable distinction exists in their prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for impulse control and long-term planning. While one might expect that this would render them impulsive, the reality is quite the opposite. This neurological divergence endows them with exceptional strategic thinking abilities that can be meticulously applied to fulfill their objectives. They can sustain complex deceptions and maintain their charades for extended periods without experiencing any internal psychological turmoil because, for them, deceit does not evoke guilt or conflict. Imagine playing chess against an opponent who not only understands all your moves, but feels no remorse when capturing your pieces. That is what you are up against. It's important to clarify before you begin to view every confident person in your life with suspicion that psychopathy is linked to what researchers call the dark triad, comprised of 3 interconnected, yet distinct personality traits. First, we have narcissists, who possess an insatiable need for admiration and often inflate their own self-image. While they can form some emotional connections, they are primarily an annoyance rather than a genuine threat. Next are Machiavellians, characterized by their calculative manipulation aimed at personal gain. They employ schemes, but don't entirely lack empathy. They might feel some remorse, albeit limited, after manipulating others. Psychopaths, however, represent the pinnacle of manipulative behavior, merging the most harmful features of narcissism and Machiavellianism while completely discarding the emotional checks that temper the other two. It is crucial to identify this distinction, as not every successful strategically minded person is a psychopath. Many competent leaders exhibit what researchers term prosocial psychopathic traits. These individuals can make difficult decisions and remain composed under stress while genuinely caring about others' well-being. The critical distinction lies in the internal conflict. A firm yet empathetic CEO may experience sleepless nights when faced with the need for layoffs, weighing the human consequences of their decisions. Conversely, a psychopathic executive feels none of that moral ambiguity. They can enact strategies that devastate lives with the same emotional detachment as choosing what to have for breakfast. The goal here is not to instill distrust in every successful person you encounter, but to enable you to identify specific warning signs that may signal true psychopathy versus regular ambition. This is where it gets particularly intricate. Psychopaths don't thrive by overtly displaying malevolence. Rather, they masterfully identify and exploit our most fundamental psychological needs. The foremost needs they manipulate are our yearning for meaning, a phenomenon I refer to as the heroism drive, and our inherent need for connection and belonging. Let me illustrate this with two notable examples. You might recall Elizabeth Holmes and her company, Theranos. The general perception is that she was merely a con artist who deceived others about her blood testing technology. However, to view her actions solely through that lens overlooks the depth of her manipulation. Holmes didn't merely fabricate lies, she constructed an entire alternate reality that enabled those around her to perceive themselves as pioneers of a medical revolution. Holmes would assert to her employees the mini-lab is the most critical advancement humanity has ever realized. If you don't believe this, you should resign. This wasn't merely grandiose thinking. It was a strategically crafted distortion of reality. By framing any skepticism as a moral failing, she created an atmosphere where questioning the technology equated to opposing medical progress itself. This illustrates a profound psychological insight. People don't just invest money in startups. They invest in heroic identities. Investors sought not just financial returns, but also the glory of being part of a life-saving mission. And employees aspired to revolutionize healthcare. Holmes provided them with narratives rooted in heroism while systematically deceiving them about the underlying reality.